Hi, this is your girl, Elsie Clemens here with another episode of my Watch and Chill series. And this one is season 2 of Iron Fist. And oh my gosh, it's such a relief to have this show do better than what its previous predecessor was. Because I swear, it didn't, now I will say this as a nitpick, it didn't really start picking up till episode 3, 4, maybe. Start picking up with the Davos storyline, but the whole thing was about anger and brothers. And whoever wrote this series raised kind of the bar of expectations of what we want in a Marvel, well, not MCU universe, but with Danny Rand. The person who wrote this season, because I heard they changed writers, clearly read a Marvel comic, because there was so much lore that you have to literally sit there and listen to it. I will say the only nitpick I had at first was Joy and Davos's characters were ticking me off, because for the first 3 or 4 episodes they were just kind of go, we have a plan and we're gonna expose you or do something to you, but we're not gonna tell you, like a little bunch of little kids. And it was like, just do something already, because at this point you kind of coming off as mustache twirling, and they did. Joy's And I did hate Joy this season. I do not like Joy. Joy wasn't that great of a character to begin with. And let me just get into it. So the whole story is this. Colleen, and mind you, this takes place after the Defenders season 1, because I'm sure there'll be a season 2. And this takes place after Luke Cage. We get a Zen Danny. Danny's more in tune of what he is, and he's trying to find himself. It still gets an inheritance, but he's not working for Rand Industries anymore. He still uses connections, though, because he's still working with Ward. Joy divested from her company because she's mad at at Ward and Danny for the whole debacle of season 1, and now she's working with Davos. And also, Colleen decided to hang up her sword and stop having a dojo as a former member of the Hand, unwittingly so, I want to admit. And how should I put it? They're kind of trying to live a domestic life, though Danny is still trying to fulfill the promise he made to Daredevil that he would protect his city. So he's going around at night trying to defend Chinatown. Now, it may seem strange that he's only kind of defending Chinatown, but we also have to remember that Harlem is actually being right now being controlled by Luke, who is, I guess, the kingpin, I want to say, of Harlem, but whatever. And I already talked about that in another video, but this Danny Rand I actually liked. He kind of was a glimpse of a Zen Danny in Luke Cage season 2, and I already talked about that in another video. In my last video about a Marvel MCU Netflix series, but this Danny, he still was kind of childish, but he also was approachable. He was kind of likable. First thing he did was he managed it's kind of sort of a rehash from Luke Cage, but it was more of a balance, because now he's working with the bad guys, but he's also not trying to muscle his way in and stuff. Like, he will still let them get arrested and he will still obey the law, but at the same time it's almost like he realizes, I can't just go around beating up triads and all these other people, because he explains it in one of the episodes. When the Hand was the only thing that was stopping the triads from trying to take over all of the city, was the Hand. Now the Hand is gone and there's a vacuum, so he's doing everything he can to save Chinatown and keep the residents safe. On top of that, we get a side story from Colleen, who is looking for Frank Choi, who might know the whereabouts of her birth mother, because of a symbol of a comb and brush that was given to her, which will be important later in the series. The symbol, the family crest, is on her sword. So she's trying to find that out, and she's given up the whole dojo lifestyle to now be counselor at a youth center, or a rec center, I want to say, in Chinatown. She's doing everything she can to live a legitimate lifestyle. Upon all that, we also have Ward, who's trying to get himself together and failing miserably. He is sober, I will say that, but he's just failing miserably in the relationship department. And I guess apologizing. He's having a hard time with one of the narcotic. He's attending Narcotics Anonymous, but he's failing at it. So there's all these little side pieces and side stories. We also get another character. We're introduced to Typhoid Mary this season. Whoever is this actress did a really great job on her. We've got, well, we haven't seen Typhoid yet, but there's three personalities. There's Mary, who's lovable, sunshine, shy, timid girl with long red hair that comes down. And then we get Walker, who is woman who militaristic, has hair and bun, will do odd jobs to make money, with her military background. Um, Her story is she was Walker, Mary, Mary Walker. Typhoid Mary is the Mary personality, had sticky notes all over the house that were left by Walker to say, don't leave the house, don't follow Danny, don't do this, don't do that. And Mary would take the sticky notes and just read them and go, fold, throw in the trash. And there were these triggers that would happen with Mary. Her heart rate would go up if she was stressed or nervous, or she thinks that something else is going on, and then she would switch over to the Mary personality, who is working with Davos and Joy. Now these two villains, all Joy wanted to do was take revenge on both Danny and her brother Ward. Ward more for manipulating her feelings, and for Danny, but for both of them for hiding the fact that her father was alive, and that ever since Danny come back, it felt like her whole life was turned to ashes. And it's because of Davos's influence that she even, well, it's not so much Davos' influence, she made a choice to go after Danny and Colleen, but also work with Davos in his plan, which is his plan is to become Iron Fist, because we get a whole backstory on Danny and Davos, who we know in the comics is Silver Serpent. They were brothers. They were all supposed to be fighting kun-lun to become the next Iron Fist. Davos was supposed to get it. In the comics, it's different, but Davos was supposed to get it. He didn't get it. He lost the fight because his father threw the fight so that Danny would win and become Iron Fist. And his mother, who was the love and support of his life, said, I should have never had given birth to you. I'd be better off to be barren. That the fact that you lost to a foreigner. So that stuck with him for the rest of his life. And this whole time, he's hated Danny, I guess, for getting this inheritance and actually getting a life. And then he becomes Iron Fist, leaves his duty, and abandons his duty and decides to stay in New York. And kun-lun is gone, so Davos has nothing left for himself. And that's kind of one of the things in this series, that who are you and what is your purpose in life, and do you know the meaning behind your purpose? And the whole brother storyline. So Davos' whole plan was, and I'm gonna spoil some of this show, it's like 2 a.m. now, and my brain went completely foggy, excuse me. But the whole plan is take Danny's power, become the Iron Fist that he was meant to be. And he became the Silver Serpent. I don't know why he decided to call himself the Immortal Iron Fist. He should have been the Silver Serpent. That would have made more sense. But, he had the symbol tattooed on his back of the Silver Serpent. So, there you go. Now, in comic books, Silver Serpent was also a rival of Danny's. But unlike them fighting in a tournament to get the Iron Fist, he got his powers legally and was kicked out of kun-lun, and he made revenge on kun-lun. This one was more of a deeper psychological thing, because once Davos becomes the next Iron Fist by taking Danny's abilities, the first thing he does is go around, after killing one of the head of the triads, works with this one guy to just take out all of them. It doesn't matter if you worked with them, if you used them for protection money, you were just in his line of sight and he was going to kill you, which is what he does. And the whole storyline was kind of, it got better as each episode progressed, because we get some backstory on the whole kun-lun thing. We get a theme of where Danny's starting to realize, maybe being Iron Fist shouldn't be just me, I should be Danny. And Colleen's story of, and really that was one of the cruxes that was keeping me going watching the series, was Colleen's backstory about finding her mother, which, by the way, I will again repeat, The comb and the brush that was found in the community center is one of the things that is one of the most important things at the end of this episode of not this episode this season. But going back to Davos and Danny, Davos managed and Mary. I'm gonna tell you about Mary. So the plan was for the big plan was I hate Joy so much. Joy wanted Danny to lose everything because she felt like ever since Danny came in her life, her whole life has been destroyed. Her father's death, she never got time to know her father was alive, to spend time with her father in her formative years, which is why she's mad at Warren, divested from the company so she can get away from him. And with Danny, Danny kind of destroyed everything and again lied to her about her whole father being alive thing. And the whole iron fist thing kind of just threw things out the window. But Joy wanted to see Danny get beat up and basically lose everything and get it on video. Who she sends to do this? Walker. She sends Walker to go beat the crap out of Danny, which she succeeds, but only because Danny hesitated because he didn't know that Walker and Mary were the same person, because Mary told him earlier to stay away to watch out for Walker. And Typhoid Mary, Walker beats up Bus. Walker beats up Danny and then takes him to Davos, who Davos uses these three witches. I'm calling them witches. They're tattoo artists who know mystical abilities to take the Iron Fist powers. Now, this was a sacred ceremony. The first thing Davos at the beginning of the series was using the triads to get the body of an Iron Fist. When he almost didn't get what he wants because of Danny's interference, kills one of the leader of the Hatchets and sparks a huge gang war, which he doesn't clearly care about because he was going to become Iron Fist anyway. He gets the body of I guess mummified art. It takes the skin off, burns it because he needs, I guess, the DNA, and bound Danny up in a ritual to take the soul of the dragon that he killed and put in himself. So they make a distinction of which Iron Fist is who in this one by Danny having the yellow golden hand, and Davos having one golden yellow fist, and Davos having the orange red fist. And as the Iron Fist, or he called himself the Immortal Iron Fist, which I'm just being nitpicky. I really wish that he could have been called Silver Serpent, which is what he was, instead of the Immortal Iron Fist, but I digress. So he goes around killing all the members, all the Triad members that they can find, with this other guy who turncoats on everybody. And we also get Misty Knight shows up, who I guess is what they're doing. They're trying to overlap each series since they all are kind of connected now thanks to Defenders and of other ways, of course. And Misty kind of calls Danny out on his BS about just going around beating everybody up because cops are involved. They're trying to take out Triad gangs, and apparently Danny stopped a roundup of arresting Triad members, which he clearly apologizes for. But Misty decides to, I guess, because the whole thing happened with Luke Cage, she works with Colleen and Danny to take down Davos, so there'll be no more Triads dying. Well, not Triads, innocent people getting killed, which one has already did. Fred Choi's brother. And we get to see Misty Knight in action with her mechanical arm, as she literally uses her arm as leverage to fight, which is kind of cool. And to make a long story short, we get more backstory, as I said before, about Danny and Davos. And at the end of the series, I know I'm skipping over other things, but I'd rather you guys watch the series because this actually was good after episode 3 or 4, and there's so much lore in there that you have to watch it yourself. I'm just skimming over it, but you're better off watching the series yourself to understand how good it was. And to make a long story short, we find out that Colleen's mother gave this crest to this guy so she could become Frank Choi, so she could become a citizen illegally, because he could make fake passports. And he worked for the Golden Tigers, which is another Triad gang. And of course, Colleen's disappointed with the news because the reason why he got the comb set was because her mother told her a story My eyes itching because of allergies. Told her a story about a woman who saved a man and from the sea and became a pirate. That is actually that's another thing to watch when you watch it. Thing to listen for when you watch a series, because at the end we get a huge shocker. So Danny, um, after the whole thing with Davos, Danny decides I am skipping over. Wow, because it's 2 a.m. But anyway, after 2 a.m. But anyway, um, the whole thing with Davos, um, the whole thing is Davos starts going a little cuckoo cuckoo. Well, not cuckoo. He goes completely psycho. Joy's afraid for her life, and she realizes she made a huge mistake. So she tries to get Danny back his powers by getting this mystical item, which is a bowl that's part of a ritual, and get the witches and Colleen and Misty go get the witches to do the ritual. But Danny decides with the whole thing with Davos to not become the next Iron Fist. He believes Colleen should be the next Iron Fist. And of course, she rejects that idea until someone who's been introduced in the whole series, BB, gets murdered because of Davos, and she decides I will become the next Iron Fist to save people because it feels like I'm not saving enough people. I need to do something about it instead of preaching it. So she becomes so. Make a long story short, they fight Davos, which I will admit, all the fight scenes in this series were actually really good. It wasn't like fight scene, talk, fight scene, talk. It was lore, fighting. It was all intricate compared to last season. And shock of all shocks, Colleen is the next Iron Fist. But remember that comb I was talking about earlier? It turns out that there actually was a female Iron Fist. Yeah, in the comics. So the guy who wrote this actually knows what he was talking about when he made it. And yes, I'm sure some people think it's a cop out that Colleen becomes the next Iron Fist, but Danny is still the Iron Fist, because it turns out later on we found out Orson um Orson Randall, who was a past Iron Fist before Danny was alive, and Danny stole his uniform as a previous Iron Fist, and he gets his powers back. So Danny's still Iron Fist, but Colleen is Iron Fist in New York to protect it while Danny is gone to find himself. So it was a good series. This was good, and the only nitpick I had was really Davos and Joy in the first season. Well, really, Joy was my real nitpick because we didn't have a thing about the hand. The hand was gone. They already talked about it. The hand is done. They said they destroyed it. So Madame Gao, that's her name, Madame Gao. Madame Gao wasn't back. Thank goodness. There have been no. The only thing is dealing with the infighting that's been happening since the hand is gone, who was controlling all the evil in the city. Other than that, I mean, it was good. There's no words to describe this, but Colleen becoming the Iron Fist is not a bad idea, because what they did as a writing style was take the focus off of Danny and put it towards Davos, Joy, Ward, and Colleen. Now, Ward's storyline was just, he joined NA, like I said earlier, Narcotics Anonymous. He's sleeping with the counselor. He gets her pregnant. But he keeps falling off the wagon, keeps rebuffing her. She breaks up with him. Even though he was willing to be with her, which I don't even know how that even works. I mean, in terms of rejecting somebody who's incredibly rich and could probably help your child. But I guess because they were both former addicts, she felt like she can't just take care of Ward and take care of the baby. But even though Ward was willing to step up, but I digress. Ward, shockingly enough, was a really good supporting character in this. I was expecting him to go back to his a-holish ways and go back to taking drugs and stuff, but no, he literally was a big brother for both Danny and Joy, even though Joy wants nothing to do with him. But he was good, and he even helps out at the end when we get Orson. I think his name's Orson Welles. No, it's not Orson Welles. It's Orson Randall. Orson Randall's costume as Danny Rand, that Danny was using, and he decides to go with Danny. I mean, heck, why not? I mean, he's incredibly rich. Could probably, I am rambling like crazy. He could probably help instead of being a hindrance. Being Danny's like moral compass while Colleen's back in New York. I mean, he's not exactly morally good. I mean, he did kill his dad twice, but Twice, I meant two, but I had my finger like this. But hey, I mean, he could be a good character. I mean, I did like Ward this season. I was actually legitimately shocked that they did Ward like this. I mean, I guess he was kind of reforming as it was at the end of season one, but this one, it was more like a complete 180. I was not expecting him to go completely good, but he did. And he offered Danny, the big brother relationship that Danny wanted when he was a kid. I mean, now they're adults and they try to deal with stuff in an adult way, but they talk out their problems, which is really good. And Misty was Misty. I love Misty. I've never had a problem with Misty Knight the entire time Luke Cage. I didn't mind Misty in Defenders or Luke Cage season one. So yeah, Misty's always been great. Colleen, I've never really had a problem with. Colleen, though, did come off as boring in season one. It was kind of like I said, a golf cart, but I didn't mind Colleen in this one. This one, her subplot makes sense. She was adopted, or she was, you know what? Let me just say this. Everybody was trying to kind of find themselves also. That was kind of part of the season. Danny was trying to find himself, without being Iron. Once he lost his powers, become the Iron Fist and realized that maybe there's more out there than being Iron Fist. Davos was trying to become the Iron Fist because he felt like he was nothing. Ward's trying to figure out how to do everything without drugs and, the codependency issues that he had with his father. And Colleen wanted to find out where her life was without the hand. So they kind of neatly wrapped up this season, and I really, shockingly enough, enjoyed it. Um, and I actually want to hear what you guys thought. Your thoughts are. So give me a comment down in the section below, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.